In an action game, such as an RPG or an FPS, you can almost guarantee that at some point you will run into a boss battle, whether it is a badass creature of otherworldly proportions, or a horde of enemies, or maybe even just a boring turret section. Throughout gaming, depending on the game, a boss battle can mean a lot of things. It could be a true test of all the skills you've picked up over the course of the game, or it could be a way to wrap up a section of the story or the game, and not necessarily be a challenge, but more of a well-deserved treat after all your hard work. Over the years, we've had some truly brilliant boss battles that are true spectacles to behold. And in this particular video, I'm going to be counting down my personal favourite boss battles. Before I get into this list though, there are going to be a few rules. Firstly, I'm only going to stick to one game per franchise, otherwise certain games may completely dominate the list. In addition to this, I'm only going to be looking at games I have personally played. As a list of my personal favourite boss battles, it would certainly be strange to have a boss I haven't actually played against. So apologise if one of your favourite boss battles is not on the list. It could be that I just didn't play that game, or if the franchise is already on the list, I might have thought that another boss in that franchise was more favourable. So with that out of the way, let's get on with this list. I'm quite a fan of the Devil May Cry series. I've played Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3, 4 and the newest incarnation, which I'll just call 5 because calling it DMC doesn't really make much sense to me. So naturally I wanted to choose a favourite boss battle to place in this list from Devil May Cry, and I was going to look at some of the newer Devil May Cries, number 5, number 4, number 3. Number 3 is my favourite, so I looked at that first, and a few battles popped into my head. I was thinking of the Virgil battle, or maybe the chessboard battle, because the chessboard battle, that was quite fun, although it was a bit tedious. I don't really recall enjoying the Virgil battles too much, because despite the premise of the battle being gorgeous and the music being fast-paced, I can't recall the battles being overly impressive. However, then one boss does come into my head. So for number 10, I actually decided to go with Devil May Cry 3, Agni and Rudra, the Firestorm. Now this may sound a little strange and even a little random, but out of all the bosses in the Devil May Cry series, this is probably my favourite. I really enjoyed this boss, more than the others. Initially when you meet these two, Agni and Rudra are the swords, and their attitude straight away is quite humorous. They're not normal demons, but then again, whenever is a demon in this game ever normal? So it's the battle that makes this boss battle really enjoyable, of course. Having to fight both these very capable wielders at the same time can be very overwhelming, and if they're not careful, they can really cut into your health pool. Because the main mechanic, you fight both of them at the same time. You have to avoid them both at the same time, and you have to attack them both at the same time, which can make it very frantic and very fast-paced. Because if you were to let one of them lose all their health before the other, the remaining one will start to dual wield, making him much more powerful. Even worse than fighting two of them at the same time. His speed increases, the range of their attacks decreases, and it begins to use more powerful attacks which are harder to avoid. And once this battle is finally over, Agni and Rudra plead for you to take them with you, giving you what is, in my opinion, one of the best weapons in the game. And that might be why it's so memorable, because not only did I love this boss, but I loved the weapons you get at the end. So it's just a shame that Dante wouldn't let them talk when you use them. It would have been great to hear their witty dialogue every time you threw those blades around. This one might seem a little strange and be a little out of place for a boss battle list, but my choice for number 9 is Guitar Hero 3 Lou. Now, I haven't been able to include the song for this game, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, due to potential copyright issues, and YouTube has been very, very strict with this lately. But I definitely wanted to include this boss battle on my list. So you might be wondering, what makes this boss battle so appealing to me? Sure, it's a little cliche, there's no real story to it out of those little comic cutscenes which don't really add much, and after all, this is only a music game. But Guitar Hero 3, I loved Guitar Hero 3, and overall I think it's the combination of the challenge and how much you've been built up since you started playing on easy mode, and of course the badass guitar shredding music. Well, that's enough for me to put it on my list. I'm a bit of a fan when it comes to the horror series as a whole. So I was looking towards Silent Hill, and I was thinking, what kind of bosses could I include from horror games? Um, I honestly had trouble thinking of a decent horror game boss, since most horror games, they kind of discourage fighting. Fighting isn't really the point of the game, and thus some of the bosses are quite mediocre. But then many recent horror games, such as Dead Space, it does encourage fighting. In fact, fighting is necessary to survive. Yet, ironically enough, I still picked a hero that you can't fight for number 8. Now I picked the Regenerator, also known as the Hunter from Dead Space. Just when you think the situation can't get any worse, you meet the Hunter. At the time, it's probably the most horrific thing you've seen. After everything you've experienced in Dead Space, that is saying quite a lot as well. Now this thing, although it does have boss encounters, what makes the thing so damn amazing is that he hunts you for literally over half the game. And it's terrifying because you know that you're completely helpless against this creature. All you can do is run away. And that makes for some terrifying and frantic experience which couldn't have been achieved otherwise. In the actual boss battles against the Hunter, it isn't so amazing as the experience of being hunted by the creature, since both times you defeat him, you have to lead him into his death by either being frozen or burned, respectively. It's a little similar to Pyramid Head. We don't really praise him for having an amazing boss battle, but let's be honest, the boss battle against Pyramid Head was nothing spectacular. We praise him for being there throughout the entire game, just being Pyramid Head. Just like I respect the Hunter for being out throughout the entire game as a Hunter. Now, I never really played the God of War series, and by that I mean I only played 3. But god damn, the introduction I got to that series was magnificent. The battle with Poseidon was a wonderful smack into the world of the God of War franchise, and it got me settled into the game by wonderfully designing the boss to introduce me to various elements of gameplay whilst keeping me on my toes and fighting Poseidon. What makes this battle a truly great introduction is because it's incredibly cinematic. It was pure eye candy when I first got it for my PS3, especially the bloody scene in which Kratos finishes off Poseidon. This would have been a little higher on my list, but unfortunately the battle, as genius as it was and as great as it was, like acting as like a little bit of a tutorial, but you don't really feel like it's a tutorial. It's just good game design, and it easily introduces me to new game elements and the game of God of War in general. But unfortunately it was a little repetitive and surprisingly simple. But that's completely fair enough because this was the first boss battle right at the start of the game. When I was younger, I used to have a Game Boy, and one of my favourite games on my Game Boy was Pokemon Blue. Why Blue? Because that's just the one I had, I didn't have Red. So, fighting my way through this game, to become the best, like no one ever was, I was eventually led to the Elite Four, the ultimate trainers, the most powerful, with the strongest Pokemon I have ever seen, back to back. It was crazy. It was exciting, and it was difficult because I was a child and I wasn't over leveled, I wasn't very good at the game. And then, when all was said and done, Gary motherfucking Oak, it turns out that your rival became the champion behind your back. Yes, for number 6, I'm not choosing the Elite Four, I'm choosing your rival from Pokemon Blue. Ever since your first Pokemon battle, ever since your journey started, you've finally gotten to your last battle, and you can truly compare how powerful you've both gone since your adventure started, giving you a true idea just of how much you've accomplished over your journey. I'm not going to lie, I loved the idea of having a rival throughout the entire game that would constantly fight you and improve as you do to give you an idea of scale and accomplishment. Getting new Pokemon and new abilities, both of you get stronger and stronger, and it was all building up to the final clash, which is oh so rewarding. Portal 1 was a pretty good game, but to be honest it bored me a little at the end, but that's because I really sucked on those last few chambers, but hey, we're getting cake at the end of this, right? No, actually, because after everything that happens, GLaDOS betrays you. But hey, everyone knows that, so let's just get on with the countdown. So, GLaDOS is not amazing because of a crazy epic battle or crazy cinematics or anything. No, it's just you and GLaDOS in a room filled with neurotoxins, which will eventually kill you. So, what makes this battle so great is because after having spent the entire game with GLaDOS barking down your neck, you've no doubt developed a love-hate relationship, similar to how Shodan would talk to you throughout the entire game. GLaDOS did the same, and it really built on your relationship to make this boss battle so much more satisfying and climatic. Imagine if you went to the GLaDOS boss battle and GLaDOS didn't speak to you at all. It would be nothing. It would not be memorable. There wouldn't really be a battle. It would be disappointing, and Portal would not be the game it is today. They probably wouldn't have even made a sequel. Other great examples of this element in order to improve the final boss would be Gruntilda from Banjo and Kazooie and Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2. And once you've finally placed a few portals and defeated GLaDOS, you're greeted with one of the best endings to a game. The very sweet end, still alive, playing on the credits theme. Is there really anything else you could ask for? The Kingdom Hearts series has had some pretty awesome boss battles. I especially loved fighting the members of Organisation 13. They were all incredibly memorable, not just in Kingdom Hearts 2, but in some of the Portable games. However, my truly favourite boss battle would have to be the battle against Xemnas, the final and climatic battle of Kingdom Hearts 2. Sure, there were a lot of nice smaller battles leading up to the final class, but I want to focus on the main battle itself. Now, what made this so great was there was a lot going towards it. There was a lot of build up and suspense, and overall I think the suspense is really met in a very brilliant and fast-paced battle that truly tests your skills, because he's not easy unless you're over-leveled, I guess. So it's full of really awesome and unique moments that aren't really in the game until this point, like the part where you have to control Riku to save Sora, or the moment where you and Riku have to deflect thousands of laser beams. This battle is a truly epic climax, but unfortunately I do have a few gripes on this, which is why it isn't higher. You see, I found the music that played during this song, it's just kind of slow paced, and it kind of drags the battle out a little for me. So if it's something was more intense and fast paced, it would have probably improved the experience for me. I'm mainly pointing this out because Kingdom Hearts 2 had some amazing boss battle tracks, but this one kind of fell short for me. But still, this is number 4 on my list, so I'm hardly shooting the game down for this. It's still amazing. Although I quite like the Legend of Zelda series, I've unfortunately not been so in touch with it. I've only played a few games, and you might be surprised to hear that for my number 3 spot, I'm picking Zant from Twilight Princess. I'm going to be honest, I really enjoyed Twilight Princess, and I think this Zant battle is genius. I've noticed that some Legend of Zelda games I've played have a tendency to have some sort of a boss room in the final temple or near the end of the game. Now, this is where you refight mini bosses. I don't like this idea, basically. It seems tedious and a little lazy for the developers for them just to recycle the same old bosses. What makes this boss battle so great is because Zan, up until this point, has been very mysterious and foreboding. Whenever you saw him, you knew bad things were going to happen, and they did. But when you start to fight this guy, something in his head must have cracked, because you suddenly realise that Zan, this threatening antagonist, is actually a complete nutcase. He goes crazy, and this is increasingly prevalent throughout the boss battle as he becomes more and more desperate to defeat you. So during the battle, Zan initially mimics bosses that you've already encountered, and these are all in some crazy fashion, which are more interesting than the boss battles themselves. Not only that, but some remixed version of the boss battle theme plays, which is awesome. So once you've finally defeated all the bosses he mimics, some of the best bosses you've encountered in the game so far, it's just you and Zan fighting blade by blade. Except Zan seems to have gone completely crazy at this point. His attack patterns are fast and random and erratic as he teleports around a battlefield trying to hit Link. Well, no, while this is happening, the music's going crazy, mixing every single boss battle theme together in some crazy mixture. For me, this was a truly incredible adrenaline-pumping battle. Everything from the reveal of Xant's true character to revisiting the boss battles, all while listening to one of my now all-time favourite boss battle themes in a video game. It's brilliant. I really like the Final Fantasy series, even the more modern incarnations, even the older incarnations, such as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, actually no, screw 11. But I really like the bosses in this series, but I've always had an issue due to the kind of player I am. I'm always over-leveled, which results in many storyline bosses just not being that memorable to me. However, this one is a little different. Final Fantasy X, you finally made it to Zanarkand, your entire pilgrimage, but then you're suddenly told by Lady Yunalesca herself that you need to sacrifice someone to become the final Aeon, and thus the next sin. The party refuses to do such a preposterous thing, and Lady Yuna decides to take it upon herself to kill all of you. And then, in what is one of the most epic cutscenes in possibly all the Final Fantasy games, you are thrown into a long and difficult boss battle. Such a long and difficult boss battle that I genuinely had trouble finding a complete playthrough of this boss battle on YouTube that isn't separated into 2 parts. Now, even if you're over leveled, you're going to lose this battle if you don't have a strategy. You could find yourself in an incredibly swift game over like I have previously experienced. Lady Yunalesca has 3 forms, and in all 3 of them, she's a complete pain in the ass. In her first form, she literally counters every attack. If you use a physical attack, she will use blind on you. If you use a magical attack, she will use silence on you. In addition, her normal attacks will nullify any status enhancements that you cast on your allies, so you can say goodbye to your hasted status. But that's not where this battle gets interesting. Her second form gets very interesting. She inflicts characters with the zombie status, which causes a character to take damage from healing sources. So this means you can't heal your allies. So you think, oh, that's okay, I'll just use holy water, right? And in addition, she also casts healing spells on the party, such as regen and cura, for large sums of damage. So naturally you'd think this would be easily countered by simply removing the zombie status effect. And yeah, because then she'll just end up healing you. Genius, right? No. Her third form opens up with an attack known as Mega Death. Mega Death instantly kills anyone in your party that is not under the effects of zombie. I've had an instant game over from this. And no, I don't hate the boss for this. Oh no, I love it. I love it for daring to be so extreme. The fully turn-based battle system of Final Fantasy X opens the game up for some truly strategic moments, and a boss like this is what the game truly needs to realise those moments. Metal Gear Solid. Where do I really begin with this series? I don't really know how Kojima does it, but it's somehow in a stealth game where combat and fighting is supposed to be avoided, he somehow makes some of the most awesome boss battles ever. But this isn't really on my list of being an awesome battle or a test of whatever skills you may have, like some of the other bosses on this list. No, this boss battle is here because it wraps up the entire series perfectly. Wait, there's a 5th game in development? Well, shit. The battle with Liquid Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid 4 is truly superb, and I'd even go as far as to say it's perfect in what it sets out to achieve. Cinematically, this boss battle is gorgeous. The setting and the premise of the battle can't be summed up in words. I've tried, honest, I'm reading my script right now. In addition, to this, every part of this battle is choreographed with the perfect music. This battle is split up into 4 parts. Respectively, each part is based on a Metal Gear Solid game. Metal Gear Solid 1 for the first part, the second part is Metal Gear Solid 2, etc. This includes the health bars changing and the music changing and overall the feel of the battle. This can include camera angles and other cinematics. The first part is played out very similarly to how Snake and Liquid fight in the first game. Even the camera angle is played similarly to how the camera was in Metal Gear Solid 1. But my favourite part of the battle is probably the third part. I love this because Ocelot gives his signature hand gesture from Metal Gear Solid 3 and Snake Eater starts playing. As a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid 3, I undoubtedly loved that part. But after all is said and done, after a lot of punches and kicking, Ocelot and Snake, they're tired, and the last section of the battle begins to play out. And that is what makes this battle truly memorable and a brilliant closer. Because after all 3 sections, it has reminded you of previous games. But this section, it reminds you of what Metal Gear Solid 4 truly is. 2 old men who have been fighting all their life. They are finally ending their fights, 1 versus 1, with just their fists. Suddenly, every punch thrown out by either Snake or Ocelot has real weight and impact. You can feel every hit, as it is both cinematic and beautiful in presentation, until finally the last hit is thrown, and hopefully you won the battle. It's over. Honestly, I could say so much about not only this boss battle, but the ending to Metal Gear Solid 4. But beside from the point, because that's not the point of this list, the battle between Solid Snake and Liquid Snake truly has to be my favourite all-time boss battle, period. It's just something I will always remember as being, in my opinion, the perfect ending to one of my favourite game series of all time. Thank you very much for watching my video. Since I'm quite new to this, I would really appreciate some feedback in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, well, I hope I'll see you next time. Peace.